For women. For mothers-to-be. All dead in one night. No screams. No signs of struggle. Just silence and half-eaten cookies. At first, the officials called it coincidence. An unfortunate night in an overburdened system. No headlines. No outrage. Just 4 bodies, tagged and zipped, and a system already prepared to move on. But someone saw through the silence. Her name was Naomi Clark. A new officer, quiet, steady, ex-military, not the kind to stir up trouble. But that morning, standing in the corridor of cell block H with the smell of something burnt and wrong in the air, Naomi didn't look away. What she saw would unravel everything. Briar Hill State Prison, tucked into the backroads of southern Georgia, was the kind of place people forgot, or preferred to. Surrounded by forest and flanked by fences crowned with rusted barbed wire, the prison looked more like an abandoned industrial plant than a correctional facility. But behind the concrete walls, over 400 women served out sentences, some for theft, some for addiction, some for survival, and some for nothing they ever truly did wrong. On June 14, 2024, at 6:02 a.m., silence hung like fog in Block H. No metal doors slamming, no shouting, no clanging food trays, just an eerie stillness. Officer Naomi Clark, on her 3rd week of assignment, entered the block expecting routine. She got horror. For cell doors stood open. For women lay lifeless inside. Each sprawled on the floor in her own cell. No wounds. No blood. No bruises. Just still bodies. Pale skin. Unblinking eyes. And beside each one, a crumpled napkin and a half-eaten cookie. The names on the rosters read: Camille Harper, 31. Once a nurse. Serving 8 years for voluntary manslaughter after defending herself from an abusive husband. Lana Brooks, 29. Convicted of credit card fraud. A mother of 1, saving up for her son's school shoes from her prison laundry wages. Jasmine Reed, 35. A former high school teacher, caught up in a drug trafficking case she never fully understood. Kira Mendez, 33. Diagnosed with postpartum psychosis after the loss of her infant son. She barely spoke, but she grew a plant named Grace by her cell window every day. Different stories. Different sentences. But they had one thing in common. They were all pregnant. Not a single pregnancy was officially documented. But the inmates knew. The guards whispered. And now, all 4 were dead. By 7:15 a.m., the warden had locked down the wing. The staff doctor was summoned. The state forensic unit was notified. But no one, not even the paramedics, could explain the calmness of the bodies. They looked like they had simply stopped. The internal report listed undetermined cause, no external trauma. The news didn't make the front page. The press called it a tragic cluster. The department promised a review. No autopsies were released. And no one, not one person in authority, asked the most obvious question. Why were all 4 women targeted? And more importantly, why was no one listening to what they had been trying to say before they died? Naomi didn't forget. Hours later, she found herself standing in cell 208, where Camille Harper had been housed. The body had been removed, the bedding stripped, but the room still pulsed with something unnatural, a heaviness in the air. And then, on the floor, Naomi saw it. A napkin, greasy, stained. A piece of cookie beside it, untouched since the moment Camille had collapsed. Naomi crouched, gloved, bagged it, slipped it quietly into the side pocket of her uniform. No one saw. No one cared. Because silence at Briar Hill wasn't just common. It was enforced. But Naomi Clark didn't believe in enforced silence. And what she had just picked up was more than a cookie crumb. It was a clue. A crack in the facade. A beginning. Because before the truth screams, it always whispers. And Naomi was listening. Briar Hill State Prison didn't look like a crime scene from the outside. It looked forgotten. Hidden behind a chain of overgrown pines in southern Georgia, its gray concrete walls stood cracked and tired, as if even the building had grown weary of what it held inside. Designed to house 250 inmates, it held over 400. The paint peeled, the cameras blinked inconsistently, and the staff turnover was so constant that many inmates stopped learning new guards' names altogether. Except one. Officer Naomi Clark wasn't like the others. Not to them. Not to the system. Not even to herself. She was in her 20s, but carried the kind of stillness that came from war zones, not training. Naomi had served 2 tours in Iraq as a combat medic before coming home to a country that didn't know what to do with her. Correctional work wasn't her dream. It was her fallback. Just keep your head down, the hiring officer had told her. Do your job. You'll be fine. But that's the thing about Briar Hill, it didn't let you stay quiet forever. Naomi had been at the prison for just 21 days when the 4 deaths happened. 3 weeks of watching, learning, listening. She didn't speak much. But she noticed everything. She noticed how Officer Logan Reeve, the senior guard on night shift, always seemed to be on duty when incidents happened. How he moved through the halls like a pastor, calm, firm, respected, but with a darkness behind his smile. He knew the broken girls, the lonely ones, the desperate ones, and he called them by sweet names: Sunshine, Little One, Mama. Naomi watched how some inmates grew quieter after spending time on Reeve's detail, how others refused to look at him when he walked past. She noticed how Camille Harper, the former nurse who was incarcerated for defending herself against an abusive husband, would go silent every Tuesday night. Always Tuesday. How Lana Brooks, a lively mother with a quick wit, had stopped laughing completely. How Jasmine Reed, once a teacher, now scribbled poems on napkins and then burned them. And how Kira Mendez, who barely spoke a word, had stopped watering the small plant she kept alive in her cell, the one she called Grace. None of it was in the reports. But Naomi saw it all. And she started asking questions, softly, carefully, not to the wrong people. One night, she pulled up maintenance logs and shift assignments. Why was the camera system in Block H scheduled for maintenance at night? Why did it overlap exactly with the same shift Logan Reeve always volunteered for? And why had 4 women, all pregnant, all isolated, all quiet, suddenly died in their cells without so much as a warning? No one else seemed curious. But Naomi was trained to see patterns, to listen for what wasn't being said. The night before the 4 women died, Naomi had been reassigned from H block to medical. Last minute. No explanation. She didn't protest, not then. But later, she would realize it was by design. Reeve worked H block alone that night. He distributed treats, a tray of cookies, as part of a morale boost. A favor for the model inmates. Naomi later pulled the delivery logs. Only 4 women received cookies that night. Only 4 had cell doors noted as checked by Officer Reeve. Only 4 died. The day after the incident, Naomi stood in Camille Harper's cell. The body was gone. The room had been sanitized. But something remained. On the concrete floor, beneath the bunk frame, was a cookie, or what was left of it. A bite taken. A crumbling edge. A greasy napkin tucked underneath. She remembered Camille hated sweets. Always traded her desserts for fruit. It was something inmates joked about. Camille said sugar made her teeth hurt. So why had she eaten this one? Naomi bagged the crumb and napkin silently. Not as a guard. As a soldier. As a witness. She slipped it into the evidence pouch in her jacket. No one noticed. No one cared. At Briar Hill, silence wasn't just expected. It was enforced. But Naomi Clark, she'd spent years learning how to survive in silence. Now she was learning how to use it. because something terrible had happened inside those cells. And the woman who once pulled soldiers from burning wreckage in Fallujah was about to go to war again, this time with a prison. White heavy checkmark part 2 complete, cinematic tone, 1000 plus words. Next up, Open Book Part 3, already completed, The Night of 4 Deaths. Open Book Part 4, Naomi's Private Investigation and Early Threats. Framed picture illustration prompts for Part 2, Image Generation with 16:9, Photorealistic Realism. Would you like me to 1. Generate the image for Part 2 now? 2. Continue writing Part 4? 3. Do both in order? Bandanai. Viet Dai 833-2. ChatGPT denoi. Rat San Long, Thurachunan. Dui de la Fin Ban Viet Lai Fan 2. Briar Hill and the Guard Who Refused to Look Away. Bang Tieng On, Voi Fong Catch True Crime Dying On. Du Dai 833-2 New Yuka. Open Book Part 2, Briar Hill and the Guard Who Refused to Look Away. Sometimes it's not what you see in prison that haunts you. It's what no one talks about. Naomi Clark. Briar Hill State Prison wasn't a place built for justice. It was built for storage. Built in 1969 on what used to be a cotton plantation in southern Georgia, Briar Hill was meant to hold 250 inmates. Today, it holds over 400, packed into crumbling wings and windowless cells. Outside, it looks like a forgotten relic. Inside, it feels like a place time abandoned. Paint peels from the walls. Cameras flicker. Metal doors groan with every shift change. And yet, somehow, it still runs, because no one really wants to look too closely at what's happening behind those walls. Except Naomi Clark. Naomi was 26 when she took the job. Fresh out of the army, 2 tours in Iraq, a combat medic with a chest full of memories and nowhere to go. The prison wasn't her dream. It wasn't even her plan. It was a paycheck, a new uniform, a way to stay useful. She was calm, controlled, observant, and that made some people nervous. You ask too many questions, another guard once told her. This place runs on routine, not curiosity. Naomi didn't argue. She just kept watching. In her first 3 weeks, she noticed things others missed. Like how Officer Logan Reeve always signed up for night shift in Block H, the most isolated wing. How he called certain inmates by soft names, Mama, Sunshine, Little One. How women assigned to his unit often withdrew afterward, stopped eating, stopped smiling, stopped speaking. She noticed how the cameras above certain doors never worked when they were supposed to. How the maintenance logs always seemed to fall in his favor. How the reports, when they were written at all, never seemed to match what the women whispered in line or muttered in the infirmary. Naomi said nothing at first, but she watched. She watched Camille Harper, a former nurse serving time for stabbing her abusive husband. Camille had once said in group therapy, "This baby is not a curse. It's my second chance." She traded all her sweets for fruit. She kept to herself. She was 14 weeks pregnant. She watched Lana Brooks, convicted of credit card fraud, working double shifts in the laundry to send money to her son Zaire. "He just turned 5, she told Naomi once. "I want him to remember me for something good." Lana was 12 weeks pregnant. She watched Jasmine Reed, a former English teacher, who used to write poems in the margins of donated library books. Jasmine was private, guarded, but hopeful. "Maybe God doesn't erase," she'd once written. "Maybe he rewrites." Jasmine was 11 weeks pregnant, and she watched Kira Mendez, the quietest of all, charged with involuntary manslaughter after the death of her infant during a psychotic break. Kira barely spoke, but she watered a tiny plant in her window every morning. She called it Grace. Kira was 15 weeks pregnant. Different stories. Same shift. Same night. Same fate. On June 13th, Naomi's schedule was changed at the last minute, reassigned from Block H to medical. She didn't protest, but it felt off. That night, Officer Logan Reeve was the only staff assigned to H Block. He logged a request for camera maintenance at 11:02 p.m. He also logged a food delivery run, cookies, to 4 cells. He wrote, "Morale treats for model inmates." The next morning, all 4 women were found dead. No bruises. No blood. Just bodies. And beside each of them, a half-eaten cookie. Naomi walked through H Block later that morning. The bodies were gone. The rooms sanitized. But something hung in the air, not a scent, but a weight. A silence too thick. In Camille's cell, Naomi saw it. A crumpled napkin, slick with grease, and a single cookie crumb beside it. She paused. Remembered Camille's words, "Sugar makes my teeth hurt." She never ate sweets. Never. So why this one? Naomi pulled a small evidence bag from her coat, slipped the napkin inside. No one saw her do it. No one cared. Because at Briar Hill, silence wasn't suspicious. It was policy. Back in her quarters that night, Naomi stared at the bag. She had no plan, just instincts. Something was wrong. Something had been wrong for a long time. She opened her notebook, flipped through her shift notes, lined up the maintenance logs. It all began to take shape. Reeve had full access to the block. The camera outage was manual. Only those 4 women received cookies. All 4 were pregnant. All 4 were dead before dawn. The warden issued a short statement that afternoon. Tragic coincidence. Pending toxicology. Staff advised not to speculate. But Naomi had been a soldier. She'd carried dying men through gunfire. She knew what death looked like. And this was no coincidence. This was murder. And it was covered in sugar. June 13th, 2024. A Thursday. The heat outside Briar Hill Prison was unbearable, but inside the concrete walls of H Block, the air was cold, unnaturally cold. As if the building knew what was coming. It started quietly. At exactly 11:02 p.m., 5 cameras in cell block H blinked out. Just a brief flicker, recorded in the system log as scheduled maintenance. Nothing out of the ordinary, according to the warden's office. But Naomi Clark had reviewed the logs. Dozens of times. She'd highlighted the entry. Override authorization, Officer Reeve. Maintenance duration, 4 hours. Not a glitch. Not bad timing. A manual shutdown. And the rest happened in the dark. "11:15 p.m., cell 208, Camille Harper." Camille sat on the edge of her cot, arms crossed over her belly, whispering to the life growing inside her. 14 weeks. A girl, she hoped. She had already picked out a name, Kyla, after her daughter. She didn't hear the door open. She only saw the tray. A paper napkin. A chocolate chip cookie. A smile from Officer Reeve. "For you, nurse. You've been good lately." Camille didn't reply. She never liked sweets. But something in his tone, the pressure, the stare, made her take it. She waited for him to leave before taking a bite. Only one. And that was enough. 11:24 p.m., cell 210, Lana Brooks. Lana stared at the photograph taped above her bed, a drawing from her son, Zaire. A house. A son. 2 stick figures. "Me and Mama," it said. She hadn't eaten dinner. Nurse, she thought. Or the cramps? 12 weeks pregnant, she guessed. But no one in medical had confirmed it. She heard footsteps, then a knock. "Evening, Mama," Reeve said, sliding a cookie through the door hatch. "Something sweet for the little one." Lana hesitated. She didn't want it, but she didn't want to make him mad either. She smiled faintly and said, "Thanks." "11:32 p.m., cell 213, Jasmine Reed." Jasmine was writing in her journal, again. She had torn out the last few pages the night before. Too dangerous. Too real. Now she wrote slowly, "If I die before I wake." Then the lights flickered. A knock. A tray. A cookie. "You've earned this, Teach," Reeve said. "For being quiet." Jasmine's hands trembled as she reached for it. She didn't want to be quiet anymore. But she also wanted to live. So she said nothing. 11:39 p.m., cell 215. Kira Mendez. Kira wasn't sleeping. She never really did. Her plant, Grace, sat in the corner. Wilted. Dying. She pressed her hands to her stomach. She hadn't told anyone. Not even the nurse. Not even herself, really. 15 weeks. Maybe more. She heard the latch. The tray sliding in. No words this time. Just a look from Reeve, blank and final. She stared at the cookie for a long time before taking a bite. Just to feel something. Just to obey. She whispered to the plant, not words, just breath, and lay down. She never got up. 6:02 a.m., cell block H was silent. Officer Daniel Grant was the first to notice. He'd come to relieve Reeve from duty. But Reeve was already gone. Off shift. Clocked out at 5:55 a.m., 7 minutes early. When Grant saw the open doors, he thought there had been a fight. But there was no blood. No noise. Just 4 bodies. 4 still figures. 4 half-eaten cookies. He called it in, his voice barely steady. "H block. I need help. We got, it's 4. All down." Naomi arrived minutes later. She wasn't supposed to be on shift, but she came anyway. She already knew something was wrong. The hallway was cordoned off. Medical staff rushed past. A gurney squeaked. A body bag zipped. She looked inside Camille's cell. Empty cot. Cookie on the floor. A napkin soaked in something oily. Her heart stopped. The official story came quickly. Preliminary findings show no external trauma. Awaiting toxicology. Potential contamination or infection suspected. No foul play at this time. The warden spoke to the press for 42 seconds. The local news ran the headline. Tragedy at Briar Hill, 4 inmates dead overnight. Then the story disappeared. But Naomi didn't. She had spent the last 48 hours reviewing every log, every shift note, every camera outage. And none of it made sense. Except when she drew a single line through all the data. Officer Reeve. Present on all 4 cells. A only officer logged into Block H that night. Responsible for snack distribution. The one who requested camera shutdown. The one who clocked out minutes before discovery. She returned to Camille's cell. Retrieved the cookie fragment. Took it home. Ran a field test. Thallium. A tasteless, odorless metal compound. Lethal in micrograms. Used in rat poison. Banned in the U.S. since the 1970s. And yet, it was here. In her hands. Naomi tried to report it. Her supervisor told her, "You're overreacting." The prison doctor wouldn't meet her eyes. And the security chief locked her out of the system by the end of the day. She received a new assignment. Lower priority. No inmate interaction. No H-block access. They were trying to shut her down. But she knew better. Because 4 women didn't just die. They were erased. And she was the only one left who could remember them properly. Naomi Clark didn't sleep the night after the bodies were found. She couldn't. She sat at her kitchen table, lights off, the only illumination coming from her laptop screen. The cookie crumb lay beside her in a sealed plastic bag, the chemical test strip turning darker by the minute, confirming again what she already knew. Thallium. A poison that should have been impossible to find in a prison like Briar Hill. But somehow, it found its way into 4 cookies. All delivered by the same man. On the same night. To the same women. And now those women were dead. Naomi pulled out her personal flash drive, the one she kept hidden in the lining of her coat. She started uploading everything. Shift logs. Maintenance requests. The cookie test result. A copy of the camera outage reports. Officer Reeves' clock-out time. Inmate health files she wasn't supposed to have. Incident reports that didn't match the dates. She didn't trust the prison system anymore. She didn't trust anyone in it. By 3:12 a.m., the drive was encrypted, backed up, and hidden inside a hollowed-out aspirin bottle in her bathroom. And that's when the first threat arrived. It wasn't a gunshot or a loud knock. It was an envelope. Slipped under her door. No return address. No stamp. Just her name scrawled in thick black ink. Inside was a single photo, Naomi walking her 5-year-old niece Ava from daycare. The caption, handwritten on the back. "Kids are easy targets. Keep your mouth shut." Her stomach dropped. Her pulse froze. She didn't scream. Didn't call the police. She'd been in war zones. She knew how systems turn on the truth tellers. Instead, she closed all her blinds, moved Ava to a friend's place, and bought a $45 body camera online, the kind used by cyclists and couriers. She wore it under her uniform. And she kept digging. Over the next week, Naomi visited the cells of Camille, Lana, Jasmine, and Kira every chance she got. She found no journals, no personal effects, all removed, confiscated as evidence. But Naomi knew evidence didn't vanish unless someone wanted it to. In Jasmine's cell, she spotted a small hairline crack in the wall tile above the bed. She pried it open carefully with a metal spoon. Inside, a folded napkin, brittle from moisture. Wrapped in it, a torn piece of lined paper. Only one sentence was visible, scrawled in Jasmine's shaky handwriting. "He said no one would believe me. But I know what he did." Naomi closed her eyes, clenched her jaw. That wasn't paranoia. It was foresight. At lunch, Naomi approached the property locker under the pretense of verifying an item for internal audit. The officer on duty didn't look up. Far right, top drawer. She found the sealed bag labeled Brooks, Lana. Inside was a manila envelope. No address. No stamp. Just the name Zaire, in Lana's handwriting. She opened it. "Zaire, baby. I'm sorry. I wanted to get out and start over. I'm pregnant. I haven't told anyone, not even Ms. Sai. He said I'd be transferred if I did. Said I wouldn't see him again. But I don't feel safe. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Naomi's hands shook as she slid the letter back into the bag. Next, she went to Kira's cell. The plant was dead now, dried up, brown and brittle. But under her mattress, carved into the steel bed frame with something dull, were 4 words. I will not vanish. Naomi ran her fingers across them slowly. Each groove was shallow but deliberate. A quiet scream etched in silence. And she knew this wasn't just murder. It was methodical. It was targeted. And it wasn't just Reeve. The next night, a black Dodge Charger idled outside Naomi's apartment from 2:14 a.m. to 4:31 a.m. She documented it, took photos, wrote down the plate number. The next day, the car was gone. But when she checked her locker at work, it had been opened. Her flash drive was missing. Her access to the internal system revoked. When she asked her supervisor about it, he said calmly, "You've been reassigned. Too much pressure. Take a few days off." She didn't argue. She knew what it meant. She wasn't just a witness anymore. She was a threat. But she wasn't alone. That evening, Naomi met with Natalie Vega, an old college friend turned investigative journalist. They hadn't spoken in 6 years. But when Naomi said 4 pregnant inmates were poisoned and covered up by a corrections officer, Natalie didn't hesitate. They met at a gas station an hour from town. Naomi wore sunglasses. She handed over a second flash drive, a backup. Natalie asked only one question. "Are you ready to lose your job over this?" Naomi replied, "I'd rather lose my job than my silence." Two days later, Naomi received a burner phone with a coded message. Backup surveillance archive found. 17-second clip. Sending now. The video wasn't crystal clear, grainy, black and white, but what it showed made Naomi physically ill. Officer Logan Reeve, walking a tray of cookies to 4 separate cells between 11:15 and 11:40 p.m., exactly during the outage window. Each time he paused, slid the tray in with careful precision. There was no sound. But Naomi didn't need it. The camera he didn't know existed had just sealed his fate. Naomi Clark didn't sleep the night after the bodies were found. She couldn't. She sat at her kitchen table, lights off, the only illumination coming from her laptop screen. The cookie crumb lay beside her in a sealed plastic bag, the chemical test strip turning darker by the minute, confirming again what she already knew. Thallium. A poison that should have been impossible to find in a prison like Briar Hill. But somehow, it found its way into 4 cookies. All delivered by the same man. On the same night. To the same women. And now those women were dead. Naomi pulled out her personal flash drive, the one she kept hidden in the lining of her coat. She started uploading everything. Shift logs. Maintenance requests. The cookie test result. A copy of the camera outage reports. Officer Reeves' clock-out time. Inmate health files she wasn't supposed to have. Incident reports that didn't match the dates. She didn't trust the prison system anymore. She didn't trust anyone in it. By 3:12 a.m., the drive was encrypted, backed up, and hidden inside a hollowed-out aspirin bottle in her bathroom. And that's when the first threat arrived. It wasn't a gunshot or a loud knock. It was an envelope. Slipped under her door. No return address. No stamp. Just her name scrawled in thick black ink. Inside was a single photo, Naomi walking her 5-year-old niece Ava from daycare. The caption, handwritten on the back. Kids are easy targets. Keep your mouth shut. Her stomach dropped. Her pulse froze. She didn't scream. Didn't call the police. She'd been in war zones. She knew how systems turn on the truth-tellers. Instead, she closed all her blinds, moved Ava to a friend's place, and bought a $45 body camera online, the kind used by cyclists and couriers. She wore it under her uniform, and she kept digging. Over the next week, Naomi visited the cells of Camille, Lana, Jasmine, and Kira every chance she got. She found no journals, no personal effects, all removed, confiscated as evidence. But Naomi knew evidence didn't vanish unless someone wanted it to. In Jasmine's cell, she spotted a small hairline crack in the wall tile above the bed. She pried it open carefully with a metal spoon. Inside, a folded napkin, brittle from moisture. Wrapped in it, a torn piece of lined paper. Only one sentence was visible, scrawled in Jasmine's shaky handwriting. He said no one would believe me. But I know what he did. Naomi closed her eyes, clenched her jaw. That wasn't paranoia. It was foresight. At lunch, Naomi approached the property locker under the pretense of verifying an item for internal audit. The officer on duty didn't look up. Far right, top drawer. She found the sealed bag labeled Brooks, Lana. Inside was a manila envelope. No address. No stamp. Just the name Zaire, in Lana's handwriting. She opened it. Zaire, baby. I'm sorry. I wanted to get out and start over. I'm pregnant. I haven't told anyone, not even Ms. Sai. He said I'd be transferred if I did. Said I wouldn't see him again. But I don't feel safe. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. Naomi's hands shook as she slid the letter back into the bag. Next, she went to Kira's cell. The plant was dead now, dried up, brown and brittle. But under her mattress, carved into the steel bed frame with something dull, were 4 words. I will not vanish. Naomi ran her fingers across them slowly. Each groove was shallow but deliberate. A quiet scream etched in silence. And she knew this wasn't just murder. It was methodical. It was targeted. And it wasn't just Reeve. The next night, a black Dodge Charger idled outside Naomi's apartment from 2:14 a.m. to 4:31 a.m. She documented it, took photos, wrote down the plate number. The next day, the car was gone. But when she checked her locker at work, it had been opened. Her flash drive was missing. Her access to the internal system revoked. When she asked her supervisor about it, he said calmly, "You've been reassigned. Too much pressure. Take a few days off." She didn't argue. She knew what it meant. She wasn't just a witness anymore. She was a threat. But she wasn't alone. That evening, Naomi met with Natalie Vega, an old college friend turned investigative journalist. They hadn't spoken in 6 years. But when Naomi said 4 pregnant inmates were poisoned and covered up by a corrections officer, Natalie didn't hesitate. They met at a gas station an hour from town. Naomi wore sunglasses. She handed over a second flash drive, a backup. Natalie asked only one question. "Are you ready to lose your job over this?" Naomi replied, "I'd rather lose my job than my silence." Two days later, Naomi received a burner phone with a coded message. Backup surveillance archive found. 17-second clip. Sending now. The video wasn't crystal clear, grainy, black and white, but what it showed made Naomi physically ill. Officer Logan Reeve, walking a tray of cookies to 4 separate cells between 11:15 and 11:40 p.m., exactly during the outage window. Each time he paused, slid the tray in with careful precision. There was no sound. But Naomi didn't need it. The camera he didn't know existed had just sealed his fate. The video clip was only 17 seconds long. But it was enough to break the silence. Naomi watched it in a locked motel room, her back to the wall, the glow of the laptop flickering across her face. The footage was grainy, the angle low, a hidden auxiliary camera behind an air vent, never properly removed from the system. There he was. Officer Logan Reeve. Tray in hand. Cookie on top. The same smile on his face each time he approached a different door in H Block. Camille. Lana. Jasmine. Smile. Each time, the same method. Each time, the same woman, alone, receiving what would become her final meal. And then, the most damning moment. At 11:40 p.m., Reeve glanced directly toward the main camera, the one he thought he had disabled, and smirked. He wasn't just hiding something. He was enjoying it. Naomi knew this footage alone wasn't enough to convict him. Not without proof of motive. Not without toxicology reports. Not without a system that actually cared. But she also knew it was enough to go public. And once the public saw it, once they heard the story, everything would change. So she made her choice. On the morning of June 21st, exactly 1 week after the deaths, Naomi Clark walked into the newsroom of Channel 7 Atlanta with her flash drive in hand. She wasn't wearing her uniform. Just jeans, a hoodie, and a bulletproof vest beneath it, borrowed from an old army friend. Natalie Vega met her at the door. The two hugged briefly. "You ready for this?" Natalie asked. "No," Naomi replied. "But I'm doing it anyway." By 6 p.m., Channel 7 aired a breaking story. Prison guard accused of killing 4 pregnant inmates. Insider blows the whistle. The segment included Naomi's voice, distorted for protection, select documents, surveillance stills, and Lana Brooks' handwritten letter to her son. Within 12 hours, the footage had gone viral. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Hashtag BriarHillTruth. By morning, the prison had issued a press release. Allegations are being taken seriously. An internal investigation has been launched. Officer Reeve is on administrative leave pending review. But Naomi wasn't finished. She went on record. 2 days later, on live TV, full face, full name. "I was a correctional officer. I saw the patterns. I saw the cover-up. And I believe 4 women were murdered inside Briar Hill Prison." She listed everything. The poisoned cookies. The camera shutdown. The maintenance logs. The missing property. The forged incident reports. The intimidation tactics. The dead plant. Her voice didn't shake. But America did. The fallout came fast. Within 48 hours, Georgia's Department of Corrections launched a formal criminal inquiry. Within 72 hours, the FBI was on site at Briar Hill, seizing computers and surveillance backups. By the 5th day, Warden Dennis Fry resigned, for personal reasons. And on day 6, Officer Logan Reeve was arrested at his home in Covington. No resistance, no words. Inside his garage, investigators found a vial of powdered thallium, a binder of handwritten notes about inmate behavior, photos, napkins, and a destroyed hard drive. It was enough. But But the system didn't go quietly. Naomi began receiving death threats. Anonymous voicemails. A brake line cut on her car. Someone smashed her mailbox with a crowbar. Channel 7 offered her protection. Natalie offered to relocate her. But Naomi refused. She went to court. She sat on the front row during Reeves' indictment hearing, flanked by the mothers of Camille Harper and Jasmine Reed. When Reeves was asked how he pleaded, he said, "Not guilty. This is political." Naomi just stared, unblinking, unmoving. Not political, personal. The state pressed 17 charges. 4 counts of second-degree murder. 4 counts of criminal endangerment. Evidence tampering. Illegal possession of controlled substances. Abuse of authority. And obstruction of justice. But Naomi wasn't satisfied with charges. She wanted names. Who else knew? Who approved the camera shutdown? Who destroyed the original logs? Who buried the autopsies? She kept asking. And others started speaking up. The Over the next month, 2 more guards stepped forward. One admitted he saw Reeve hand Camille a cookie but said nothing because he ran the block. Another claimed he was told to clean out personal effects fast the next morning by a supervisor who later denied the order. A nurse said she'd been told not to record pregnancies in the system. And the toxicology lab? It lost the initial samples. Briar Hill wasn't just negligent, it was complicit. By August, Naomi testified before a federal oversight committee. By October, Briar Hill was closed for investigation. By December, the state of Georgia settled 4 wrongful death lawsuits totaling over $11.2 million to the victims' families. But Naomi never took a dime. She started a foundation instead, the 4 Names Project, to advocate for incarcerated pregnant women nationwide. She returned to speaking at schools. She trained new officers. She published the letters. She planted a tree for each woman, Camille, Lana, Jasmine, and Kira. And on the 1-year anniversary of their deaths, she stood alone in front of the prison gate, wearing a blue hoodie, holding 4 white flowers. 1 for each voice they tried to silence. 1 for each truth she helped the world hear. March 3, 2025. Courtroom 14B of the Fulton County Superior Court was standing room only. Outside, protesters lined the courthouse steps holding signs with names no one had cared about a year ago. Justice for Camille. Jasmine's voice matters. Pregnant. Imprisoned. Poisoned. Naomi, we stand with you. Inside, under fluorescent lights and thick tension, Officer Logan Reeves sat at the defense table, suit pressed, hair neatly parted, hands clasped. He looked calm, almost smug. It had been 262 days since the night 4 pregnant inmates died at Briar Hill. 262 days of investigations, depositions, forensic testing, and quiet reckoning. Now, it was all about to be put on record. The prosecution opened with a name. Not Reeves. Not Naomi's. Camille Harper, the district attorney began. She was a nurse. A mother. She made a mistake, one that landed her in prison. But she was trying to rebuild. She was 14 weeks pregnant when she died from deliberate thallium poisoning inside a Georgia state prison. And then 3 more names. Lana Brooks. Jasmine Reed. Kira Mendez. They weren't perfect, but they didn't deserve death. Especially not like this. The courtroom sat in silence. The evidence was damning. Surveillance footage of Reeve delivering the cookies. Logs showing he overrode the camera systems. A vial of thallium found in his garage. Lana's letter to her son. Jasmine's napkin confession. The dead plant in Kira's cell. The altered medical records showing no mention of pregnancy. In Naomi's recorded voice, testifying through body cam footage. One clip hit harder than the rest. Naomi's voice, trembling but fierce. He thought the silence would protect him. But silence only works if no one breaks it. I'm breaking it now. The defense tried everything. They called Naomi a disgruntled employee. They called the camera footage inconclusive. They suggested the inmates may have smuggled in substances and poisoned themselves. But the jury wasn't buying it. Neither was the public. By week 2, major news networks were covering the trial daily. Podcasts, documentaries, TikToks dissecting courtroom expressions. Reeve became a symbol of unchecked power behind bars. But Naomi remained the center of the storm, not because she sought attention, but because she never backed down. The On March 28, 2025, Naomi took the witness stand. She wore a navy blue suit. No makeup. No jewelry. Just the dog tags from her army days tucked into her blouse.